Hi, my name is Luna Lindsey, and I'm the author of urban fantasy, horror, and sci-fi. This short story I'm about to read you is entitled Right After Feeding Time. It was feeding time again. Vivian scooped up half a pound of cat food in an empty margarine tub and began to fill the 24 dishes scattered around the kitchen and dining room. She cooed to her 24 cats, calling each by name and petting every one in turn. 11 trotted after her, each eagerly crunching its liver chicken fish-flavored breakfast as soon as its dish was full. She paused a little longer over a plump black-and-white tuxedo. "Good Harvard! Who's my favorite kitty?" She picked him up and scratched him under his soft chin before setting him down and moving on. They all loved Vivian, their plump, middle-aged, slightly crazy cat lady. 13 of the cats did not deign trot after her. Each waited, biding time by patiently licking a forepaw or staring out the window or pretending to doze on the cat tree. These 13 would eat last, not because they were lowest in the pecking order, nor had they recently eaten. These 13 ate last because they were special. Vivian reached the edge of the living room. Here 13 dishes lined the wall, and they too stood out from the random assortment of plastic and chipped ceramic. Each shone silver with a custom design: a pentagram, a 6-pointed Star of David, a dragon, an Eye of Horus, Thor's hammer, an ankh, a griffin, the letter A with a circle around it, an oak leaf, a mask, a crescent moon, a serpent, and, oddly out of place, the on-off symbol found on computer power buttons. The 13 took notice, and each in their own way walked with dignity to the feast. Their tags jingled from their collars, each one bearing a symbol to match the dishes. She smiled at them, such good kitties. "Eat up, children! We have work to do." Vivian waited patiently, arms folded, contemplating the delicate task before them. Soon they were finished, and she turned without a word toward the basement stairs. 13 cats followed down the worn steps in solemn silence. They took their places at each corner of a 13-pointed star etched into the dirty concrete. Some twitched their tails violently, as if they pulsed with more energy than their tiny bodies could contain. Others dipped their heads and stared towards the center of the circle with intelligent intensity. Still others curled up in their respective points and simply fell asleep. Vivian emerged from the shadows wearing a black robe. Her arms were loaded with a number of items, which she dumped onto the washing table next to a cluster of half-burnt white candles, a bucket of old paint, and a wad of last week's laundry. Selecting a long match from the pile of items, she ignited and lit all the candles on the table. Then she walked around the dim basement, lighting more candles hidden in nooks all around the room. Once lit, the dimness turned into an orange glow. A faint smell of fire mingled with the mustiness of the chilly basement. Next she turned to the table and lit incense. She stuffed all the other items into pockets hidden within her robe, with the exception of an ornate knife, which she held in her left hand. She stepped into the center of the star, and pointing the blade outward towards each of the cardinal directions, she called on the gods of each. She did this turning Deosil, clockwise, mimicking the path of the sun. Then she leaned down to pet one of the cats. The energetic Siamese reached up with his head to meet her halfway. His collar bore the power symbol. "Ah, Switch, now do your thing." Switch purred and touched his nose to the floor. The lines of the star lit with a faint white light. Each cat, even those who were sleeping, began to purr. It sounded as though a great geared machine had just come to life. Vivian began a chant and petted the heads of 4 other cats in turn. The one with the moon to bring change, the one with the ankh to ground the energies and send them deep into the earth, the Eye of Horus for protection, and the one with the pentagram to call upon the elements and unify the magic into one spell. The lines on the ground began to crackle with little sparks of electricity. Then she walked over to another dark corner, picked up a chair, and set it in the middle of the circle. Still chanting, she produced a chain and bandana from within her robes and tied them to the chair in several places. She moved back outside the circle to stand at the northmost point. Her voice reached a crescendo, and she drew a sigil in the air with the tip of her dagger. With a swirl of light, a young woman suddenly appeared facing her, bound and gagged in the chair. The girl's eyes darted fearfully left and right. She tried to scream and struggled against her bonds. She wore only her pajamas, a white wife-beater and boxer shorts. Her black hair was tousled as if she had been sleeping. Vivian lowered her arms. Then she petted the head of a cat she stood over, the one with a mask symbol. "Good kitty." Stepping close to her captive, she removed the gag, saying, "Don't worry about making noise. Mumsy here will keep anyone but us from hearing you." "Who are you, and what do you want?" "I'm the witch, Vivian, and these are my Kateshi." She leaned down and scratched Mumsy's willing head. "Yes, you are, good Kateshi." Standing straight again, she continued, "As for what I want, you know of a certain dryad. I need you to tell me where she lives." "Why?" "I only want to talk to her." "Which one?" Which one? She thought Feybound trees would be more rare. "I didn't think Seattle had more than just the one. I don't know her name." "Well, that's not going to be much help. Listen, what's with all the magic and chains? Couldn't you just come talk to me? Like, 'Hi, my name is Vivian. Pleased to meet you, Jet. Hey, I'd like to know more about dryads, please.'" "Your name is Jet? Pleased to meet you, I suppose. I didn't think your kind liked my kind." "The magic and iron could have something to do with that, Vivian, and so could fey-binding those poor cats." "They like me fine. They all agree to it. I give them treats." As if in answer, the purring intensified in unison. "I'm guessing it helped their willingness somewhat that you didn't start out by kidnapping them." Vivian felt hurt by the accusation. "I didn't know where you were," she explained, "or even exactly who you were. So I summoned a fairy, any old one the magic brought to me. The iron chain was just in case you got violent. It's coated with plastic, so it won't hurt." The girl in the chair rolled her eyes. "How do I know you're not looking for this dryad, just so you can enthrall her or burn her down?" "I wouldn't think of doing such a terrible thing. No, I only want to ask her a few questions. Besides, do you think my Kateshi would even let me hurt a dryad?" Jet pondered this for a few moments. "If I tell you where a dryad is, will you untie me?" "Which dryad?" "A random one. I don't know which one you're looking for, so you only get one." Vivian took a turn at pondering. It was probably best to not ask for too much. There could be consequences. "Okay," she agreed. "That's probably the best I'm going to get out of you." "There's one in Green Lake Park by the water. Once you get there, I'm sure one of your Kateshi can locate her easily. Now untie me." That certainly narrowed it down. If it wasn't the right dryad, maybe she could try again. Vivian reached down to touch one of the cat's heads, Tipsy, the one with the hexagram, but Jet stopped her. "No, I didn't say send me back. I said untie me." Untie her? Had she really used the word untie? I thought you meant let you go, which means I can send you back." Jet grinned and narrowed her eyes. "Wording is ever so important, Vivian. You are bound to do as you agreed. Untie me." "And if I don't?" "Then you've broken a contract with a fairy. That would be very, very unwise." An elf? Loose in her home? Outside the protective circle? But the alternative could be far worse. With shaking hands, Vivian stepped forward and carefully removed the chains. When Jet stood, Vivian flinched in anticipation, but Jet merely grinned and slowly walked up the stairs, keeping eye contact with Vivian the whole time until she disappeared. Goosebumps prickled over her skin, and she found she could not move for some minutes. She felt a quick draft, and the house seemed a little lighter. Then she heard the front door slam. The spell broke. Vivian ran upstairs to find her abductee had vanished. She glanced around. Her home still stood, her furniture intact, her valuables in place, and she, Vivian, was still alive and unscathed. Breathing a sigh of relief, she dropped into the couch. She had escaped. Or had she? Something seemed not quite right. She looked around at her cats. The Kate were fine, but the others, they moved strangely, in jerky motions, like puppets or stop animation creatures in a film. "Harvard, here, kitty," she called. But he did not respond. Standing, she bent down to touch him. He was little more than skin, wrapped tightly across bones. When she picked him up, he felt too light, like a trophy animal freshly dressed out by an amateur taxidermist. Then she saw his eyes. 2 empty sockets gaped back at her. She screamed and dropped him, where he fell with a jarring clatter in a limp heap. Then, animated by some magic she did not understand, he stood again. Led by unseen forces, he jerked slowly past the fireplace. They said you should not meddle with fairies, and now Vivian understood why. This story, right after feeding time, is set in the Dreams by Streetlight world, where fairies and fairy hunters lurk in the shadows of Seattle. If you'd like to experience more of this world, my novel, Emerald City Dreamer, is currently available on Amazon for Kindle.